Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove, on the road this week. Like we always say, buddy, it's the best time of the week.
Best time of the week, man. Ready to be awesome, Perko. Happy we could connect and talk some ball, man.
Clint, it's always a pleasure to talk ball with you. Badgers coming off of a disheartening victory on the road. Disheartening loss, I should say, on the road at Indiana last week. They're home for Northwestern this week. Have a couple of big name targets for the 2025 class coming up to Madison for the game against Northwestern, plus a lot of probably 2020 later 26 kids. I think there's even a 27 coming up. I can't believe 2027s are being recruited now. Also got a couple
there's an insane one in Illinois.
Really? Who's that?
Yeah. Myson something Cook. He's at Decatur MacArthur. Kid's 6'3", 205-pound running back as a freshman, 10'9", 600 as an eighth grader. And he looks like a grown man playing in a kids league on the field. He has a chance to be one of the next great ones out of the state of Illinois. He is special. It's pretty. We just did a file about kids in the Midwest who their offer sheet doesn't match their talent. I was like, I know it's dumb to put a 27 on here because he's got offers from like Penn State, Iowa, a couple big ones. But I was like, if there's ever a 2027 that should have a bigger offer list, it's this guy because he is a freak. All right. So, but yeah. So
2027s, we're going to stay back to the 25s mostly today to talk about that. We might talk 26s a little bit, but let's talk 25s because Badgers have the top two in-state offensive linemen both going to be there this weekend. Owen Strebig, we've been talking about forever and a day on this show in recruiting circles. Rivals top 100 recruit, top 10 tackle in the nation. The number one player in the state of Wisconsin. He's going to be on campus again. He still feels a little bit at this point like he's a Notre Dame lean. There's still a long way to go in his recruitment. The other tackle, though, that they will have in the building is Michael Roeske, who we've talked about a little bit, but we haven't run the tape on him yet here. And Roske's a really intriguing prospect for me. One of the things, though, that you talked about the 27 kid being a man among boys. Roeske at Wautoma is playing against some defensive linemen who are less than half of his weight. And so it's really tough to suss out at times what's there, what's real, and what's not, because he's just so much bigger, faster, and stronger than everyone. But even with that, his athleticism shines because there's a couple clips on here where he's playing middle linebacker. Yes, he's playing middle linebacker at 6'8", 290. And so, Clint, when we turn on the tape here, what pops out to me is the overall athleticism and the way that he is able to just move that big body around.
Yeah. Obviously, the first thing that jumps out is his size. That 6'7", 6'8" range. And a lot of the time, people are like, oh, it's not even fair. But what they don't think about, and you're going to see him, blocking space here. It's pretty impressive, like his straight line speed and his ability to get out of his stance and run. But then look at him. Look at that short area quickness. I mean, he throws the kid out of the bar. Poor kid. But he's the thing that really sticks out is a lot of these big guys. People are like, oh, they should just dominate. They're blocking down on guys. That's hard. So you got to learn to play with great bend. And what he does is, I thought he was a little heavy footed last year. But then you see him get out of his stance, and he never goes. Well, he goes 1 for 1 there because he was kicking the kid out of the bar again. But he's always looking for more work. So he does have bend. He does play under his pads. You see it flash. It's not as consistent as you want it to be, but he's a young kid, and it's going to be. Look at him get out of his stance, get underneath the guy, just absolutely punish him at the next level. His short area explosiveness, kind of like we saw on that first play where he threw the kid out. It's like he's kind of trotting, and then all of a sudden he explodes through the defender. And you just love the upside. Once he gets consistent, once he gets a little more body control, which he's already come a long way in the past year, but just the athleticism at his size, the flashes of the bend, the flashes of the consistency, the power, the ability at his size and at his age to look at him run there. He's like a skill kid running down the freaking field. His ability to come to balance while playing fast and violent in space is really impressive. You don't find a lot of young guys with his height and length that are still growing into their body and can do it. But like you said, he's twice the size as everyone on the field, yet he's moving at the same speed as the skill guys. He's a guy that I'm happy we went back and reevaluated him, because you saw flashes of it. He's a lot more consistent. He's become a much better athlete. I thought he was a little heavy-footed last year, but if he keeps developing at this rate, he's got a chance to be another one of the great offensive linemen that come out of Wisconsin. His ceiling is high. He's already got the physical attributes. The athleticism is there. And it's just going to be about refining everything, growing into his frame, getting used to his body, and then adding, I know it sounds weird, adding more mass to a kid who's as big as he is, but adding that strength that he appears to already have, but just overall mass. And he's going to be able to hold a lot more weight, and he's going to be able to move the same. I mean, look at him here. Size and athleticism and body control at this stage of somebody's career, you just don't find it often. We have him as a 5.73 star right now. I'd imagine that he's probably going to get some sort of bump moving forward, if not this time, definitely in the future, because there's a reason that all these schools are after him. And a lot of them have seen him in person, worked him out in camp, I'd imagine, and he's going to be a big-time player.
Yeah, he is. And, he's got, offer from Michigan. He's got, a lot of these bigger Midwest programs are already coming after him. And, I'm watching that. I don't know if the actual clip came up here on what I pulled, but there was a poor kid wearing number 75 who was maybe 5'4", $135. And it was just like, this isn't
program
fair.
Guy.
Yeah. It's not fair. It's really not fair in some of these, against some of these small school talents. And with that, the learning curve is going to be steeper, especially when it comes to pass blocking, because he's not going against edge rushers who have moves and strength and size and agility and bend. And so I would imagine that is going to be the area in need of most refinement.
Yeah. I mean, like when we go down to the All-American game, these offensive linemen, especially for the Midwest, and they're guys that are like killing it right away. Those first one-on-one drills, when they got a 5-star edge guy that just blows them up, and they're like, I've never even done one-on-ones like this. They got me going up against a future first-round draft pick. I didn't know what to expect. They like make fun of themselves. And it's like some guys get, oh my gosh, he's got no chance. I'm like, the guy's from the Midwest, never played against a player like that. And then he's in a defensive drill. And of course he's going to get blown up. And then they're playing right away at Ohio State. Carson Hintzman, I know when he was down at the All-American game, I had my stroke. I wasn't able to be there. But they're like, you could tell he was going to be really good. But this is his first time seeing this type of stuff. Now he's starting at Ohio State, his second year there. So, the offensive lineman, it's a process, especially if they have been going up against dudes all the time. But he'll adjust fine. When you've got the physical and athletic skill set, you're going to be okay at the end of the day, especially if you love ball. I'd imagine being where he's from, he loves some ball.
Definitely. Well, there are a couple other top 25 targets on the defensive side of the ball who will be there this weekend. Christian Pierce, who we've talked about ad nauseum on this program, the linebacker from Chicago, brother of Roderick Pierce, who was a high priority, who was committed to Wisconsin before he flipped over to Michigan. But a couple other guys, they've got Ivan Taylor, who's a Rivals 150 corner out of the state of Florida, who will be there, as well as Mason Alexander, who's making a return visit to Madison. Second time in 3 weeks, I think he's been there. And now he's unranked in the in Rivals right now, which I think is interesting considering some of the offers he has, which include, Nebraska, Miami, Ole Miss, Pitt, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Purdue, West Virginia. I would imagine the next go around, he's definitely going to be ranked. And we've mentioned him in passing here on the show, but we haven't talked about his film really. And I think that, I went back and watched both the sophomore and the junior film on him. And what jumped out to me the most in the I'd say the evolution of him is that he seems to be playing a step quicker, and he seems to be, recognizing, and his football IQ went up over from his sophomore and junior year, and that's probably just seeing the reps. But that is one of the instincts are really starting to stand out on him. What do we like about
good
here out of Fishers, Indiana?
I mean, the first thing that stands out is his length, his size. So, like when you look at him, you turn on the film, he's a long kid. You talk about his instincts and being a step faster, like you're going to see here where he jumps on this ball. He has a great feel for the game now, so he can kind of bait a quarterback, and because of that length, because of his ability to burst out of his breaks, he's able to undercut that ball and intercept it. So that's something that he might have not done last year. Now, he had the speed and athletic ability to make plays like that. He's a 10-7 100 kid as a sophomore, is what his PR is. But and his versatility, he can play safety, he can play corner, he could line up and play nickel. He's got the size. He's 6 foot, maybe he looks like he's probably pushing 6'1" now with that length. And then he's got the frame that's going to be able to hold plenty more weight. And so he's a guy who could hold up and almost be like, you wouldn't have to sub him if you're going into like a nickel or dime package. He can almost be that linebacker type, but you just love his stride. And a lot of young kids with his length, they struggle kind of transitioning from back pedal to brake. And there's times where you see him playing a little high and it takes a second. But once he sticks that foot in the ground, his burst with the ball in the air is extremely impressive. He's got phenomenal natural coverage skills, man-to-man coverage, but then he's got great range as well to play zone, and he can get in throwing windows. And there's just a lot to like about him. You talk about his ranking. Yeah, he's I'd imagine, I can't guarantee you anything. We have our rankings meetings coming up in the coming weeks. He's going to be in that 4-star conversation right out the bat. The reason we didn't go earlier on him is I just didn't want to throw a low ranking on him and then, have to politic to get him higher. Sometimes that happens. So, but yeah, no, he is a talent. He is a skilled player. He's just everything. You see him right there. Like he's able to tempo, flip his hips one way and then quickly flip again the other way and then track the ball and find the receivers. So this is another kid with a ton of upside. And when you're recruiting, you're looking for upside. You love it right there. What was he? 12 yards from the receiver when the ball's coming out, and he's at the ball by the time it gets there. So he makes plays on the ball. And like I said, he can press, he can play man, he can play zone. He sees the field well. There's just a lot to like about him. And corners with his size, with these traits at a young age, you don't find them a lot. He's in Indiana too. And you talk about him being there multiple times in recent weeks. This is a kid that you take all day, every day at Wisconsin. And it seems like there's, some interest being reciprocated there. Not afraid to, get his nose dirty as you see there. He'll come down and make tackles. But yeah, I just love that how he's got a very versatile and dynamic skill set. He's got the speed. A lot of straight line guys who run 10-7 as a freshman. So he's probably going to be in the 10-5s, 10-6 at minimum by the time he's older. They're straight line guys. You see him there. He bursts, come to balance when he recognizes the play, puts himself in position to make an open field tackle, and then burst through the ball carrier again. So the ability to start, stop, the body control there, his lateral movement, everything you see here points to a stud down the line. I just really like him. Again, right there, reading the quarterback in zone coverage with that range, and he's able to make a play on the ball, even though he is, I think his eyes, if I was remembering correctly, he was probably, was it a 3x1 there? Do you remember?
It looked like it.
Okay. So what he was doing is he probably has to start having an idea because he has to get over the top of number one because that guy's on an island over there if they're playing a trips check. But then he's also playing the vertical of number 3 as well. So he was able to do that there. That is a hard skill. That's something you got to rep a lot. I know he's getting coached well over there, but he's perfect in this defense that they're playing. And I would consider him, with him being in the Midwest, he's a must-get type of guy for Wisconsin if they want to make that next step. And I think he can be that player.
Yeah, and he's showing out against some pretty good competition. This is a top 10 program in the state of Indiana, all divisions. I think they're ranked they're ranked 8th right now in the state. So, and they are going up against some of the best in Indiana. And the Indianapolis area has some really solid high school football, which is good to remember here when we're looking at some of these kids.
Yeah, and a lot of time those guys get underrated, or there's the 5 stars always. Those guys jump out, but like a guy like Dylan Thieneman, he is a chance to be freshman player of the year. He's a finalist for the Sean Alexander Award. Kid was a 5.73 star. I kind of wanted to make him a 4-star just from talking with his coaches and loving and knowing what he can do. And he's just an absolute killer already as a true freshman. And That's the type of players you get there. And this kid's more physically gifted than Dylan is. Now, Dylan is a different guy where he just loves football, wants to hit people, wants to disrupt, wants to make plays, has no fear on the field. But there's a lot of kids like that in Indiana, and I really like what I see from him this far. And I think his best football is in front of him. You talk about just the development from last year to this year. I think we see that again from this year to next. So
yeah, well, let's round out what we are looking at here this weekend for the Northwestern visitors. There are some Badger targets, some high priority, or Eric Schmidt, the kicker, has been on campus more times than I think anyone can count. Who's one of the top kickers and punters in the nation for the class of 25, and is as high priority a specialist as you can pretty much find. A couple other 25s, 26s, trying to get into the tight end. Tristan Comer out of Michigan is an interesting prospect. But the one guy who we've been hearing rumbling, bumbling, stumblings about is Mack Sutter out of the state of Illinois, out of Dunlap. And now he plays quarterback. He's listed as a quarterback. He plays everything for his high school. And Clint, I know early returns on young Mr. Sutter are very positive.
Yeah, they are. So he's a kid on my radar. He's like in that 6'6", 220 range. Edgy Tim, the publisher of our Illinois high school site, who's, he's the godfather of Illinois high school football. He went down after seeing him. Edgy called me immediately. He's like, dude, this kid is a 4-star, if not a 5-star talent. And I was like, he's that good, huh? He's like, he is that good. He can play everything. He's like, I think I saw him get a sack, catch a touchdown, throw a touchdown, run for a touchdown. Like, the kid's a one-man wrecking crew. Now, the interesting thing is his dad, I don't remember if it was Bob Sutter or something like that, but he was a linebacker, I believe, at Northwestern, still top 4 all-time in tackles there. And so I just think this kid's got a chance to be big, big time. All the reports of people have seen him have nothing but great things to say. I think his offer list, he's a little off the beaten path, but Dunlap has put out some big time players. And I think he's going to blow up. He's a name that you need to keep a close eye on. Dad is a Big Ten player, Northwestern, probably smart kid, and already has the measurables. He's going to be a player. He's a guy that's definitely on my radar. I'm going to continue to evaluate. I can't wait to see him in person. But of those young guys that are coming in, he's definitely a kid that Wisconsin fans want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's good to start getting these kids in earlier and earlier as, just the natural progression of recruiting seems to get younger and younger and younger. So no matter what, though, no matter who's coming in to visit, no matter who's on the radar, we're going to be here. Picking up those teams on the radar, analyzing them, and telling you if they are something that you need to keep an eye on for the future. So, Clint, we appreciate your time as always. He's at Rivals_Clint on all the social media. I'm Matt Perkins _Perko_ on Twitter. And you can check out everything over at BadgerBlitz.com on the YouTube page. Like, subscribe, review, do all of those good things. And we appreciate your time. And thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you in the den.
See you in the den.